All right, y'all, I promised that I would plot these belief quizzes for you, and I'm going to go ahead and go over this tonight. I want to make sure that you're familiar with the scale that I'm using, though, before we get too deep into this. If you remember, I had asked you 7 questions that were dealing with wallet issues, and then I asked you 7 questions that were dealing with bedroom issues. To make this simple, wallet was basically dealing with economic kinds of issues. In other words, how much or how little should government regulate the economics in your life? Maybe put it overly simply, how much should government regulate your money? Bedroom is actually dealing with moral issues. And the question, again, is basically how much should government regulate or not regulate the moral issues in your life? How much freedom should you have economically? How much freedom should you have morally? And if you look at this up here, the horizontal line is actually going to be dealing with wallet issues. So if you scored on the right side of this graph, and you can kind of see here the center point with that red dot, if you scored to the right, then you tended to believe that government should actually regulate economic or wallet issues. However, and there were a couple of you that actually scored to the left of that red dot, y'all are going to be believing, on the other hand, that government should stay out of economic issues and leave that more to individual freedom. Now, when you're dealing with the bedroom issues, you'll notice up here that bedroom is actually, again, the moral issues was this vertical line. And if you scored north or above the red dot, then that means that you believe that government should regulate these bedroom or moral kinds of issues. A number of you did, but the bulk of the class actually scored below the red dot, meaning you believe that government should stay out of moral issues, and this should really be left to the discretion of the individual person. But my contention is, by asking you questions dealing with bedroom and wallet issues, is that we can reasonably accurately begin to predict what a person's political views are going to be if we know how much or how little you think that government should have authority to regulate moral and economic kinds of issues. So let me go ahead and jump into these categories. Now, it goes without saying, but let me make sure that I do. You'll notice that red dot that's actually in the center. The very center of this graph, the closer that you are to the center of the graph, the more moderate your views are. And as you get further away from the center of the graph, whether it's down here into the bottom right-hand quadrant or whether it's going up closer to the top, the more extreme your views are. So we're going to get into that a little bit. But let me just start with the basic first category down here. And for exam purposes, what I want you to make sure that you can do, I want you to make sure that you can actually explain the relationship with regulation and bedroom and wallet as you begin to explain what these 4 categories are. And the first category is actually going to be liberal. If you believe that government should regulate economic issues, however, if you believe that the individual should be freer regarding moral or bedroom issues, then you are a liberal. And while it's not exact, liberals tend to overlap fairly reasonably with the idea of the Democrats. And you'll notice, as far as class is concerned, there's Diego, there's Matt, there's Miguel, there's Marvin, there's Lily, there's Naomi, and then there's Fatima and Catherine. Y'all scored from basically moderate to strong liberals. Nobody was really extreme in that regard. Now, as you look at this, talking about economic issues, you know, there would be some people out there that would say that regardless of how much you earn, and this is one of the questions that I had given you, everybody should be taxed the same percentage. That's not a liberal idea. The more money you earn, in fact, the more money that you should pay. And the less money that you earn, the less money, generally speaking, you should pay in taxes, because for obvious reasons, you're just not going to be able to afford it. Taking 10% of somebody's money that makes $1 million a year and taking 10% of somebody's money that actually only earns $10,000 is really not equal, and some people would say not fair, because that 10% is going to mean more to the person that makes less. So the Democrats, the liberals, are going to be more interested in regulating wallet or economic issues. There's a sense out there in some instances where they're actually going to believe that government can spend money better for American people than in fact the American people can spend for themselves. maybe in some extreme cases, not all to be sure, but that mindset is out there to a certain extent. Liberals are going to believe that government should regulate economic issues more because government can oftentimes make better decisions, and this is actually going to be for the good of the citizen, the good of the individual, because if government can make better decisions, and if in fact maybe we can make the differences in wealth a little bit more equitable, then all of a sudden it's going to be a better society for everybody. When it comes to bedroom or moral issues, however, liberals are going to believe very strongly that government should stay out of this. Abortion is not an issue for the government. It's an issue for the individual. Whether you pray or not, religion shouldn't be something that actually gets thrown down your throat. When it comes to marriage, or even in a little bit more of an extreme case, when it comes to weed, these are decisions that the individual should actually make. So, liberals are going to believe that government should regulate economic issues for the good of the individual, but they're also going to believe that the individual can make better decisions morally, and government is going to extend freedom there. Now, when you look, you've got Diego, Matt, Miguel, and Marvin, who actually scored on the exact same dot. And on 5 of the 7 questions, y'all believe that government should, in fact, regulate economic issues. On only 4 of the 7 questions, y'all believed, in fact, that government should stay out of morals. In other words, y'all are good, solid liberals in terms of economic issues, but frankly, it really depends on the moral or bedroom issue as far as whether you think that government, in fact, should allow individual freedom. So you're not necessarily in favor of everything. You're more moderate on moral issues, is maybe a good way of saying this. If you notice down here, and if we continue down, Diego, Matt, Miguel, Marvin, Lily, and Naomi, y'all actually all scored on the exact same line economically. And what I mean by that is, again, on 5 of the 7 questions, y'all said that government should regulate economic issues. The difference is that, Lily, on 5 of the 7 questions, you said that government should stay out of people's individual choice. So, in fact, you are a good, solid liberal, both economically and morally. And Naomi, goodness gracious, on 6 of the 7 questions, you said government should stay out of moral decisions. So you're a solid liberal in terms of economics. You are more of an extreme liberal when it comes to choice. When it comes to moral issues, government should stay out. And just to be really quick with this, Fatima and Catherine, y'all both scored on the same point. So understand, when it comes to Lily and Fatima and Catherine, y'all all agree that government on 5 of the 7 questions should stay out of moral issues. The difference? On 6 of the 7 questions, Fatima and Catherine, you believe that government should regulate wallet or economic issues. In other words, y'all are good, solid liberals when it comes to moral issues, but you're more extreme liberals, in fact, when it comes to the economic ones. Now, going over, and really, you'll notice if a liberal is going to believe in regulating wallet or economic issues and staying out of the bedroom issues, it kind of makes sense that they're not going to have anything in common with the conservatives. So we're going to flip this and go up into the upper left-hand quadrant, and now we find our conservatives. Conservatives are going to believe that government should allow economic freedom in terms of wallet issues. In other words, it should be the individual's property. They earn to work for it. If I earn what I keep, then I should keep what I earn, so to speak. So this is going to be more about economics and property and wealth. By the same token, these folks up here that are going to be conservative are going to be much more interested in government regulating the moral issues. So when it comes to things like school prayer, it's not like the question suggested that people should be allowed to pray. In other words, they have a choice, but maybe they should be forced to pray. Government should have a role in deciding issues dealing with abortion, for example. No, government should not legalize weed because that's something that could impair the individual's judgment. In other words, if liberals are thinking, hey, we're going to regulate the wallet because ultimately we're going to help people make better decisions with their money, conservatives, on the other hand, are going to say, we're going to regulate the morals because we're going to prevent some of the bad judgment decisions that we believe that are actually out there. Again, the conservatives and the liberals are going to flip-flop what government should regulate and what it shouldn't. Now, I had mentioned to you at the very beginning of all of this, in fact, that the closer that you are to the center, the more moderate your views are. And if you notice, there's two people, and I've got them circled up here, that are really, really close to the center. One of them is Elizabeth, and one of them is actually Jamin. Y'all both scored on this 4 and 3. Elizabeth, you scored conservative because while you believe in government staying out of the wallet, but it was really, really close, 4 to 3. 4 to 3 that government should regulate morals to a certain extent. The fact is that Elizabeth, you're not a strong conservative, but really what you are is your views depend upon the issue. So sometimes, I mean, if we would have changed one question on this, you could have ended up in any of the 4 quadrants. So depending upon the issue, sometimes you want government regulation, and frankly, sometimes, again, depending upon the issue, you just don't. Jamin, same kind of thing. I'm not going to get into your category yet, but if we would have changed any one question, you could have ended up in any of the 4 quadrants. So you're still kind of figuring out what your views are, at least based at this point on those 7 questions. Gustavo, you're a little bit different because we can go up top on you. And while you and Elizabeth were the exact same in terms of economic issues, on 4 of the 7 questions you said government should stay out of people's wallets. You lean a little conservative. What really makes you a strong conservative, Gustavo, is your belief on moral issues. Remember when I had mentioned Naomi before? On 6 of the 7 questions, Naomi believed that government should stay out of moral issues. Well, Gustavo, if we pan up to you, on 6 of the 7 questions, you said that government should regulate moral issues. In other words, you and Naomi are basically polar opposites. And while you might be moderate, just like Elizabeth is, in terms of economic issues, you are a much more extreme conservative when it comes to morals. You know, it's interesting talking about liberals and conservatives, and I've got this weird little U over here just to kind of give you something to think about. And you notice up here in the U, at the very top of this, it really is dealing with you at your younger ages. And this is probably where many of you are right now. The younger that you are, typically the more liberal you are. And think about it in its most basic sense. I mean, when we're younger, we don't really have that first good job. We've not really bought a car or a house. Odds are we don't have kids yet, these kinds of things. In other words, we really don't have a lot to lose. And as such, we're going to be a little bit more liberal because we're going to need government oftentimes to help us a little bit more. As you get older and as you get actually to the middle age part of your lives, you become more conservative. Now, let me make sure I'm clear on this. I'm not saying that you're going to naturally be very liberal when you're younger and you're going to be very conservative when you get more to middle age. But what I am saying is that you're going to be about as liberal as you'll be in your life when you're younger. And you're also going to be as conservative when you get to middle age as you're going to be in your life as well. And think about it. When you get to middle age, maybe you're going to have married. Maybe you're going to have a couple of kids. Maybe you're going to have a big mortgage. Maybe you're going to have the family. You're going to have more to lose. And if the basic root of conservatism is to conserve what exists or to preserve what exists, it kind of makes sense that you're going to be interested in conserving the things that you now have, protecting these things that you didn't have when you were younger. If you fast forward and you get to the end of life, again, I'm not saying that you're going to be guaranteed to be liberal when you get older, but what I'm going to say to you is that you're going to be more likely to be liberal or as liberal as you'll be when you get older because you really become a lot like you were when you were younger. Think about it for just a second. What we're basically saying here is that when you're older, the kids are grown. The house is paid off. You've retired from the job. In other words, you're probably going to need a little bit more from the government now, just like you did when you were younger, as opposed to in middle age, when you were working, when you were preserving what you had, when, frankly, you were still kind of growing. So keep in mind, liberal and conservative, there are some tells, and age is one of them. And again, I'm not saying you're going to be guaranteed to be liberal when you're young and old, or that you're going to be conservative in the middle. But what I'm saying is you're going to be more likely to be as liberal as you'll be when you're younger and older, but you're also going to be more likely to be as conservative as you'll be when you get to that middle age point. Now, I had mentioned to you regarding liberals and conservatives, and they're kind of the yin and the yang to each other. Liberals believe in regulating economics or the wallet issues and staying out of the morals. Conservatives, on the other hand, are going to believe in regulating the morals and staying out of the wallet or the economic issues. Well, there's two other quadrants and there's two other categories. Nobody in the class fell as a libertarian. Nobody in the class fell as a libertarian. So let me make sure that I'm clear on this. Libertarians are going to believe in individual freedom. They're going to believe oftentimes that the best government is going to be the government that governs the least. In other words, it's going to believe very, very strongly in individual freedom. Individual freedom. So with this in mind, government is going to stay out of the wallet as much as possible and let the individual decide. Libertarians are going to stay out of the morals. So it doesn't matter if we're talking about taxes. Hey, you earned it. You should get to keep it. You need to be responsible for yourself. Of course, that takes away safety nets and social programs. But the fact is that libertarians are going to believe in the strength of the individual, and safety nets really aren't going to be doing that. When it comes to morals, libertarians for a long time actually had a plank in their presidential platform that advocated for the legalization of weed. The other groups up here have never done that before. So keep that thought in mind. But again, whether it's prayer, whether it's abortion, whether it's guns, leaving it to the individual, and the government that governs best governs least is the motto. And then this fourth quadrant where I do have a few of y'all. Y'all are actually going to believe in regulating everything. So, if libertarians believe that government should stay out of economics and morals, well, the populists are going to believe that government needs to regulate everything. Populists oftentimes are going to believe in regulation because we need to do things to help people help themselves. Yeah, libertarians believe that the individuals can make the better decisions. Populists have a little bit of a darker side. We want more power. We need more power to make more decisions for you because government can make better decisions than the individual, whether it's regarding morals or whether it's regarding economics. So keep that thought in mind. You'll notice up here, Jamin, you lean a little bit toward being a populist. On 4 of the 7 questions, you said that government should regulate morals. On 4 of the 7 questions, you said that government should regulate economics. In other words, you lean slightly toward having some control issues. Jessica, you're a little bit stronger in this regard. Although you're on the same line as Jamin, and even if we expanded this out as Elizabeth as well, you have a much stronger view in terms of government control of economics. In other words, on 5 of the 7 questions, you said government should regulate. Government should play Robin Hood, take from the rich, give to the poor, redistribute, protect people's chances. We need to help people. We need to make them do things because if we don't make them, they're going to make decisions that are going to be counterproductive. So you're moderate in terms of moral issues, but you're much stronger a populist in terms of economic ones. But the real grand champion up here is Jermaine. And you'll notice I drew this little red dotted line down here because as crazy as this sounds, Naomi, Lily, Diego, Matt, Miguel, Marvin, and Jermaine are all the exact same view in terms of economics. On 5 of the 7 questions, you said government should regulate economic issues. The difference is, Jermaine, you are Gustavo. You are the exact opposite of Naomi. On 6 of the 7 questions, you said government should regulate morals. Why? Because government can make better decisions regarding morals than the individual people can, and if we leave too much authority to the people, they're going to mess up. Jermaine, and Jessica. I don't know if anybody has ever said this to y'all, but oftentimes populists have control issues because, again, they're going to want to make the decisions because they feel like they're trying to help, but the fact is that they can make better decisions for people than people can make for themselves, and sometimes that's a little bit of a turnoff. And if, in fact, you get a question on the final exam that asks who in class is most likely to be the dictator, Jermaine, as a strong strong regulator of economics and an even stronger regulator of morals, Jermaine, you would be that person. Remember, for exam purposes, please make sure that you're comfortable with bedroom and wallet regarding liberals, libertarians, populists, conservatives. Let me know if you have questions.